What's up, everybody? We made it to Friday. It is Finish Strong Friday. So whatever you're doing today, make sure that you finish strong, get into the weekend with some good vibes. Hope you have some fun plans for the weekend. Man, we got a good show today. It's been a great week. We've had an awesome panels, awesome guests on the show this week, and today's is no exception. So excited to introduce Lauren here in just a minute. But before we do that, a couple things that I want to remind you about. It is April 1st, April Fool's Day. No joking around here. We've got a Tough Mudder charity challenge coming up. The word on the street, Tough Mudder charity challenge. It's 30 days. The countdown is on. We're going to be doing 9 miles and 30 obstacles. It's going to be a lot of fun with the street crew. That's the group of people on the word on the street. If you're not familiar with that, come check us out today at noon on LinkedIn Live to watch the word on the street. Fun show. Mike Riccio is going to be the guest. But anyways, the street crew, the people on that show, we're going to be doing a Tough Mudder to raise money for an incredible organization called Battle Buddy 3 Gun. It's an organization, a nonprofit organization that my good friend Jeff Combs started. He is a former Marine who became paralyzed in an accident while he was serving in the Marines. Struggled with a lot of just depression and what is his life going to mean? What's he going to do? Came out of that and decided that he wanted to help other veterans who were going through the same experiences, specifically paralyzed veterans. So we started Battle Buddy 3 Gun. It's a 501c3 organization. So any donation you make is tax deductible to the charity. So please go to the website, betaconsultinggroup.com/events, and click on that donate now button and help us reach our goal of $100,000 to help support these guys. They put on events for 10 wounded veterans at a time to go on shooting adventures, to do the 3-gun shooting adventures. And most of these guys are in wheelchairs. They have specialty wheelchairs. They push them around. It's a really great opportunity for them to have community, have a sense of hope. And my buddy Jeff Combs does it voluntarily. So we want to raise funds and help him do this. Each event costs about $4,000 to take 10 guys on a trip to do this. And we want to help impact 25 of these events, or 250 wounded veterans. So help us reach the goal. Any amount matters: 25, 50, $100, $500. If you're a company, $1,000, $2,000, definitely do that. And again, it's tax deduction, a tax deductible donation. So we appreciate that. Again, go to betaconsultinggroup.com/events and donate. Also, check out what we can do for your company as a sales and marketing strategist that are looking out for you, how we can improve your sales and marketing outcomes. Okay, that's enough of that. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to come in and be here today. So I want to jump right in today and invite our guest on, who is one of the leading voices, if not the leading voices, when it comes to maritime in the logistics and supply chain industry. She has a ton of wisdom, ton of knowledge, ton of experience, and it's just a lot of fun to talk to. So please welcome to the show, Lauren Beagan. Lauren, what's up? How are you?
Hello, how are you? Great to see you, Trey.
I know, so good to see you as well. It's been a little while since we last spoke. And in fact, I think the first time that we met, I think we were both on Freightwaves. You were a guest ahead of me on, I think, What the Truck. Is that right?
That's right. And I was actually like 8 months pregnant when I was doing that. So thank goodness for virtual. Yeah, I didn't have to travel anywhere.
Because like here up, you can't tell, right?
Right, you couldn't tell. No one knew.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. I guess I haven't even said congratulations since then.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Are you getting any sleep? It's been about 6 months. Are you getting any sleep?
Yeah. Actually, he just turned, I know time flies. He just turned 10 months old. So yeah, it's been a while. I know, right?
It has been a while.
Yeah. So no, but yeah,
really
he's our second baby, and he's a trick baby because he's such a good baby.
Man, I'll tell you, our second was the same way. Just we let her down and she'd go to sleep, and just so easy. It's like, where was this?
Right.
Where was this
the
first time around?
I'm waiting for any moment for like the other shoe to drop and just the whole thing to go awry. But no. Actually, before we started, because it's April 1st, I wanted to tell a little joke.
Let's do it. Let's hear it.
So, what is a pirate's favorite letter?
I have to say R.
You'd think it's R, but it's the C.
Good joke.
It's April 1st.
So let me ask this question. Is April 1st, April Fool's Day, is it about telling jokes or is it about pranks? Like, what do you think?
Definitely pranks, but I mean, I don't know. I didn't want to prank you on your own show. You'd never bring me back.
I could take it. I'm down with that. I'm always down for laughing at myself. Not a problem at all. But I think it is about pranks, and I wish I was more of a prankster. I love the people that are really creative in their pranks and have really thought it out and capture people. That's one thing I love about Ashton Kutcher when he punks people. Or at least I don't know if you do it anymore, but back in the day, some of those were really, really, really good. So happy April Fool's Day to everybody out there. Nice joke. Nice joke. I thought I had the answer. I didn't.
I had to contribute. You did. I mean, the thing is, if you said C, I would have said R. It's
a universal joke.
joke.
You can go either way. See, that's genius. See, that's a mathematical joke. That means you always get it right. I love that. Mathematical card tricks, mathematical jokes. Oh,
you gotta have the one up. You gotta have like the next step, right?
That's awesome. No, I love it. That's cool. In fact, I thought about April Fools. Like, what could I do? We got Word on the Street. Today is our 100th episode of Word on the Street.
Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Which is amazing. But I thought, well, what could I do? And I haven't really thought of anything yet. So we'll see if anything kind of, inspirational comes along in the next hour and a half before the show. Otherwise, it's just going to be a regular show. But
I'll let you borrow my Maritime joke if you'd like.
Maybe if nothing comes up, I'm going to jump to that one and see if anybody guesses it.
It's probably technically a dad joke. I'm going to call it a mom joke, but it's probably more suited for a dad joke.
It probably is. TJ Knudsen, shout out. He would love that. He's a dad joke master when it comes to that for sure. So, all right. So Lauren, before we talk about your career, tell me real quick, how old are your kids?
Oh, sure. So I have actually they're about a week apart. So I have about to turn 3 years old and about to turn 1 year old.
A week apart in birthdays. Yeah.
A week apart in birthdays. Yes. Sorry. 2 years, cool. 2 years apart, almost to the week. Almost to the day.
Well, that keeps it easy. Get those birthdays knocked out of the way. We actually did a mutual birthday party this year for my daughters who are about 2 months apart. We did that. That was actually fun. So maybe in the future you guys can do that.
That's what we're going to do. Yeah. Well, so because they're pandemic kids for the most part. I mean, our daughter who's turning 3 was 8 months old when we all shut down. I mean, it was St. Patty's Day in Boston and everything shut down. So we, so she's never had a birthday. And then now our 1 year old, I mean, you hate to throw too big of a party for a 1 year old. He doesn't know what's going on, but like he still wants to celebrate. So so we're going to do, it's actually Memorial Day weekend lines up. We're doing it up. We, I don't know. I'm thinking maybe pony ride, maybe like little animals to come.
Big time, going all after it. And definitely now, did you wait to give the chocolate cake or the dessert sugar until the first birthday, or has he already had sugar?
I think his first, so it lined up right around Thanksgiving that he was able to start kind of trying foods. And I think his first food was actually whipped cream. Second kid, right? Second kid.
That's right. Whatever happens, happens.
First kid, it's all about the rainbow. You got to go through the red. I mean, that lasted a week for me. But the second kid, it was like, yeah, give him some whipped cream. See if he likes it.
Oh man, that's so good. When our kids were growing up, or when they were younger, we didn't give them any chocolate or sugar until their first birthday. And that look on their face, I'm sure your son, when he got that first taste of whipped cream, he's like, more. I want more of that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, he was kind of like, good. What is this? I mean,
Weird texture for sure, but no, that's cool. Right. Awesome. Yeah. It's so much fun. I would say this. I'm on a kick right now, man. My kids are 14 and 12. I just say enjoy it. It goes so fast. It's so enjoy every moment. And they're all really fun. They're all unique. But congratulations and
thank you. Well, and that's the greatest thing. I mean, COVID has been really difficult for a lot of people. And, that I think is the greatest of the silver linings, is that kind of return to the family. I think people were able to really, I know I was missing that time with my daughter at the time. I was waking up at 4:30 to catch the 6 o'clock train, to do the whole hustle all day long, to barely get home by 5 to be part of her daycare routine, because I'm not dropping her off at 6 a.m. So like I've got an hour or two. There's been some recent, social media posts that talk about not being very present with your, and everyone's situation is so different. But, for me, I really wanted more than an hour or two. And so being able to kind of open my own companies here, this has been so great, because it gives me that flexibility to, I go to swim practice now. Like, I didn't think that was possible. So I think, like I said, COVID has been really terrible for a lot of people. And this is not diminishing any of that, but it also has provided some nice shifts in society, I think.
There's definitely a lot of silver linings. I mean, the advancement in technology, the advancement in communications, the prevalence of social media and connectivity in those regards. But I agree with you. I think the focus back on family, or at least on what matters most to you, whatever that is. For people that maybe don't have families, maybe it was a hobby that they've just been putting off, or something else, a trip that they hadn't taken, or just time to like start reading again, or creating a podcast, or whatever it might be. It gave us the time to focus on. And I think you're right. A lot of families went, wow, this is actually kind of nice. It's actually the reason what you just described is the reason why we decided to homeschool 6 years ago. My wife's a former school teacher. I'm a former school teacher, and I work from home. And she was a homemaker at that time. And we're like, man, the kids should be here. We don't get enough time with them. There's 8 hours a day that they're gone and we only get like 3 or 4. This isn't right. We want more time. And so it was that thought that caused us to homeschool. I think a lot of people had that reflection last year, that time to think about what they want. Some made changes. Some decided to stay home. Some decided to homeschool. Some decided to just change their priorities or their work schedule, maybe more flex. So there were a ton of silver linings, but you're right. Sometimes out of the greatest tragedies or out of the greatest problems or disruptions come some of the biggest blessings in life. And I think that's definitely true. It sounds like it's true in your life as well.
It's so true. And that's so interesting that you decided to homeschool, because as I'm understanding it, there's actually like a whole underground world of like, there's groups, there's networks, there's like tips and tricks. And I mean, you have like communities that you can, it's so cool. I mean, it's almost totally, I mean, maybe this is a bad parallel, but it's like the Peloton world. Like Peloton has all like, it's less about the bike, it's more about the Facebook groups you can be a part of. I feel like homeschooling is like, it's just such a strong community, and I had no idea.
It's a lot like logistics. I mean, if you're not in logistics, you probably don't even realize what's going on. In fact, my first job was at DAT in 2012. I didn't know what a freight broker was. I didn't know the different truck types. Like I knew about semi trucks going down the road, but I didn't know about a reefer versus a flatbed versus a van versus a gooseneck, a container, a drayage. Like you just don't think, you don't speak
and now
in
it's
these
in your
terms
blood.
normally. And now it's obviously in your blood, and it's become more mainframe just because of pandemic. But it's kind of that underground thing as well. Homeschooling is very much that way. When you start homeschooling, you all of a sudden start meeting families that are homeschooling, and you start to create some connections and friendships and things like that. But it's definitely kind of an underground world. Although I think, again, with the pandemic, people started to look at different methods of education. I think, private school attendance has gone through the roof, and homeschooling has actually gone up as well. So I think people are just realizing that they have more choices and that they want to exercise some of those choices.
Yeah, I think so. I think it like we said at the beginning, it kind of just returned to people reprioritizing. I think everybody kind of just felt compelled to the rat race, and now the rat race has been, the track has been relayed.
Right. And I think a lot of these things are going to change forever. For example, people working from home, when you get a taste of that and you're still productive, it's pretty exciting because you don't have to drive anywhere. You don't have to get up as early, or you can do more things with your morning time. Like I know now that, working from home, I have time to work out, I have time to read, I have time to have breakfast with the family and not feel rushed. And then I can start my day. So yeah, there's a lot of things that go into that. So I think we could talk about this forever, but what I really want to talk about is you and your experience in the maritime industry, and specifically with starting your company as well. So before we go any further, we're kind of getting the cart before the horse here. Why don't you intro yourself? Tell everybody a little bit about you and your career, and kind of what led you to what you're doing now.
Sure. So Lauren Beagan. I am the Maritime professor. I'm a maritime attorney. So I started my first company, Squall Strategies, because, I had worked at the Federal Maritime Commission down in DC. So I'd worked for the federal government. It was so great to be part of those conversations. I was an international affairs attorney for the agency. And so I was part of some really big conversations at a fairly young stage in my career, and just learned so much. So I had gone to law school with the intention of going into maritime, but to be able to find my way into the field was so perfect for me. And then because of family reasons, I moved up north. I moved up to New England, worked at the port up here at the Port of Boston, and really was able to experience the port and the user experience and get boots on the docks, all the things that I had been, I did that backwards, but all the things that I had really kind of been regulating, part of the regulation for, and in both national and international conversations, I was now able to see out in the wild. And so what a great way of kind of pairing the two experiences. But, I was still missing that national conversation, that international conversation. And I'd always wanted to go out on my own. I'd always wanted to do consulting and kind of run with the legal side of things. And so that's what I did. So I started Squall Strategies, kind of a nod to maritime, what squall, in the name. And it's been so great because I've been able to run down inquiries that people have. I do federal regulatory. Obviously, I'm intimately experienced with the Federal Maritime Commission and all of the regulations that come with that. So, if people have questions on the Federal Maritime Commission, whether that's NVOs, OTIs, freight forwarders, all the alphabet soup, happy to help. Detention and demurrage, those are the buzzwords these days. But then also I'm starting this new venture called the Maritime Professor. It's going to be an e-learning, kind of educational platform. I put out a show on Fridays at 1 called By Land and by Sea. And I wanted it to be I liked this learning educational side of it. So I didn't want to have to always be, oh, this is not legal advice. Oh, this isn't an attorney-client privilege. And there's some certain, appropriately so, but professional responsibilities along with being an attorney. It was like, I just want to connect with the people and share my knowledge. And, not everybody has a legal inquiry. Maybe they just want to know more. And so that's why I thought, well, let's turn this weekly thing into something, and created the Maritime Professor. I'm putting together some video content that's going to be, for purchase on the web, all that stuff. But in the meantime, I'm like, let's just get the info out there. I just love connecting with people. So is that that's a long
No, that's great.
overview?
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. And the names you have are so clever. The Maritime Professor, and talk about an underground industry where not a lot of people know about maritime, or even cargo ships, containers, port, drayage, demurrage. Like people don't even know what those things are. So it'd be cool to bring some education and some light to this part of the industry that is so critical from a supply chain perspective. And being in Boston, what a great name, By Land and by Sea. Is that what it is? By Land and by Sea.
It is. Yep.
I love that. Just so clever. And so, I'm excited to see your content journey, to see all these things come to fruition. It's clear that you're a creator, that you're a visionary, you're an inventor. And I don't know about you, but being able to create is just one of the joys alone, regardless of what you're actually creating. I think for anybody out there who is a creator, who's thinking about content, who has thoughts that they're thinking about sharing, man, do it, because that is so good for the soul if you're a creator. I never feel more alive than when I'm building something new that came from my mind, that ends up becoming something that the world can benefit from, hopefully, or at least that I can benefit and take satisfaction that I created it. It's such a good feeling, isn't it?
It really is. And that's the thing about the legal side of things is, you go through all this training and you go through all this experience, and having somebody come to you with a question, it is so it's kind of, it's a little nerding out, but it's kind of like a creative moment too, because all of a sudden you're like, that's a really good question. I don't know if you can do that. So you look up the regs, and this is probably why I went into law, but I never really wanted to be like the litigating attorney. I was never too contentious. I can be. I say that I'm kind of a sugar-coated bee where, I'll still sting you, but really, I just want to be looking up your inquiries and kind of being a helper, and really kind of translating what the law says into your specific case. So that's why Squall Strategies was so perfect for me, because it's creating, an answer, a solution for an otherwise I don't know. That's a great question. So it's been really fun there. But then also the Maritime Professor, doing these LinkedIn Lives on Friday is so fun. And then I don't know if you found this, but getting to slice and dice the video afterwards, learning all the Adobe suite, learning how to put music in, and it's so fun.
You're speaking to the choir here. It's absolutely.
And you're like, oh man, that turned out great. And I have no idea what I'm doing when it comes to this.
Well, that's the truth, but you learn fast, and it is a lot of fun to do that. So before we go any further, how can somebody learn more about your company, about the Maritime Professor, and this LinkedIn Live show that you have? Talk a little bit real quick about where they can find you, and then I've got a few more questions for you.
Yeah, so LinkedIn for sure. Follow my profile there. Click the link, the follow button. You'll see all my stuff. I mostly put things through kind of the funnel of my personal page, but I have pages for both Squall Strategies and the Maritime Professor. I have a website for Squall Strategies, so www.squallstrategies.com. And then I am building the Maritime Professor website, so it's not quite live yet. So, if you want to follow the videos that I'm doing, obviously Fridays at 1 p.m. they go live. I repost them on my LinkedIn page, but they live on my YouTube page. I feel like I'm sending everybody all over the place, but the YouTube page is By Land and by Sea. So if you miss the live, totally fine. All those videos and the shorts and everything are over on the YouTube page, which is By Land and by Sea. So it's been so fun. I also have some of my appearances there. I'll probably put this on there. So if anybody wants to catch this again, it's, as you're experiencing, this is just such a fun platform that LinkedIn provides. And we both use StreamYard, which is such a great, plug for StreamYard. It's such a great platform, to be able to stream out.
So easy to use. Yeah, no, that's great. I'm glad you were able to share all of that of where your content lives, and being just a great journey for you to do that. It's funny. I don't think I realized that you went to, maybe I did know that you were a lawyer by trade. But it's funny, I'm actually having back-to-back lawyers on because Monday we have Matthew Leffler on the show, who you know, Matthew, and he's just so good to listen to, so smart, so creative, so entertaining. And it's funny because, you know, I think there's a maybe a stigma about lawyers, but if you think about the lawyers in our industry, they're fire. Like you, Matthew, Cassandra Gaines. I mean, they're not your typical lawyers at all. And so pretty exciting to have you guys on the show. And to talk
Matthew is phenomenal. You will have such a great conversation on Monday. I am such a big fan of Matt.
This is combo number 2. Like he was my 3rd guest. And I was like, man, I got to have you back on. We didn't even, you know, just had to have him back on. So now I'm in the process of recycling some guests because they were really good. And so it's fun.
Well, that's great. Yeah, no, Matt is the best and has such great industry experience with surface transport side. And, you know, I lean on him when I want to learn more about the surface transport side of things. And certainly Cassandra too, you know, her show, Matt Gaines, is really great. But phenomenal. Yeah, I mean, all, you know, we're all just trying to help each other along, you know, I mean, and your point of Maritime, well, attorneys in general can be a little, you know, not the ones that get on camera.
There's a stigma, right? There's kind of a stigma, but you guys definitely break the mold without a doubt. No doubt about that. So talk a little bit about, you know, because some people watching the show might not necessarily know a lot about maritime and the law and what's important about it. What is important for somebody out there maybe who isn't in logistics, or if they are, just aren't familiar with it? What are like the basics? What do people need to know, or what's going to, you know, just help them understand, you know, why their toilet paper is not making it to the shelf, or why things are costing more, or whatever? Like, how would you kind of start the conversation with somebody about maritime?
Yeah, so I mean, so maritime law in general, there's a ton to it. I mean, it seems like such a niche industry, but there is a ton to maritime law. So the area that I kind of focus in is the supply chain. So the ocean transit, the big vessels, you know, actually, unfortunately, a great example is the Ever Forward, which is ironically not moving forward. It's stuck in the Chesapeake Bay right now. That's the kind of ship, that's the size of vessel. That's an almost 12,000 TEU. So that's 20 equivalent unit, which, so back up here. So containers in general. So the cargo boxes that we all see, and different than trucker boxes, because trucker boxes already have the wheels on them. Containers that go by sea are just the box. And so they need to be loaded onto a chassis, which is like basically a frame that has wheels, so that you can actually move that box. And so otherwise those boxes they just get stacked up, you know, like Lego style on these vessels. And so they travel around. And so the box that you're probably thinking of in your mind that you've seen at ports is a 40-foot long box. You know, it's a pretty long box. The way that the industry labels them is 20-foot boxes, so half of that. So it's a little bit incongruous there that TEU, 20 equivalent unit, is how the industry measures, but actually common day uses 40 equivalent unit, which FEU. It gets a little confusing, but that's why I like to break it down so that you can kind of, you know, hear the different lingo. But so there's a ton here in maritime, obviously, but that's where 90% of everything goes by ocean freight, and arguably 100% of everything. I actually heard somebody say 100% of everything except for your baby coming home from the hospital goes by truck, and arguably even that baby goes by truck, because you know, all the gear, the car seat, everything. So 90% of everything goes by ocean freight. So you know, it's a huge piece of everyday life. I mean, it's the reason why, you know, maybe toilet paper wasn't making it in time. That was a little bit more, I don't know, consumer driven and misinformation than the reality of, you know, there was a lot of fear that we weren't going to have enough toys out there for Christmas. I think I gave the example of, you know, if we had Tickle Me Elmo during this past Christmas, we might have run out of enough Tickle Me Elmos, but there was always going to be an alternative toy for people to go purchase.
And that would have been fine, by the way, if we'd have run out of Tickle Me Elmos. I'm not going to lie. That would have been just fine with me.
I know, right? You know, it's so funny. I guess there were a few kind of toys that stood out, but there wasn't really that one like everybody had to have. But unfortunately, that would have probably fallen victim to the congestion that we were seeing. You know, it's everything kind of works together. It's the supply chain, but like the actual visual of it's all connected through links in the chain. And so ocean is a critical piece of that, because as we know, a lot of stuff is made in China. And so as it's being imported into the US, it comes by ship for the most part. There is aviation, air travel, air freight, but it's so expensive comparatively. Less so nowadays because the ocean freight rates have gone through the roof. But, you know, previously it was actually I mean, these ocean carriers were barely breaking even, and now they're reporting
Record
billion-dollar
profits.
profits. Yeah,
That's right.
so but I do want to remind everybody, I mean, just 5 years ago, they were barely breaking even. If not, they might have been losing money. And so
Mhm.
they were playing the game of if they could make a little extra money on an import and then cover the cost on the export. It was
Yeah.
a tough game for something that was so critical to the entire global economies, really. I mean, we're seeing
Yeah.
inflation now going up, partly, not
Right,
only,
right.
but partly because of prices going up in the transportation side of it. So it's connected to everything. That was a way over the top explanation of how maritime
Well, it sounds like there's
connects
a
in.
lot more that we can learn from the series
If
that
you
you're gonna
want to
do.
follow my YouTube
Yeah.
page, if you want to learn more, the Maritime Professor, that's like I said, that's kind of why I created it, because I wanted people were asking me follow-up questions from some of this stuff. And it really can be dissected down, it can be digestible. But in the meantime, it's pretty complicated if you approach it and you don't really have that baseline knowledge. And there's so much alphabet soup.
Yeah, and the one thing I guess the main thing I took away from that is that 1 container is 2 TEUs. Is that right? Did I do the math correctly? Is that kinda how
One
that works?
container that you're probably thinking of. So a
So I'm
container.
thinking of a
So
40-foot
actually,
container,
this
a 40
image
foot
that we
container.
have up here is a good example. So like
Yeah,
both of our photos here would be the FEU, the 40-foot equivalent, and then half of it obviously is the TEU. So
yeah, yeah.
this would be 2 TEUs or 1 FEU.
Nice, good. Well, for the math people out there, with the non-math people, there you go. So you have that for sure. So talk about this for a minute. So you decided to start your own thing. Talk about what went into that. You're a one-person shop right now, correct?
Mhm.
For the moment.
Yep.
What went into the idea of, and what was that like? I talked to Charlie Safro about this on Wednesday. She started CS recruiting about 12 years ago, and we talked about starting something brand new. What were the emotions of starting something new? Was it like you're ready for this and just a ton of courage and confidence, or was like this is scary, I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen here, let's just try it out? Like how did you handle that emotionally, taking that step of starting your own thing?
I mean, can I say scary as hell? I mean, I
Yes.
think I think that that's what everybody feels. I mean, I think that I on the one hand, I like to think that that's what kind of drove me to keep moving forward, because it was like it's an emotional roller coaster. It's equal parts exhilarating and like the coolest thing you've ever done, but it's also equal parts almost debilitatingly scary. And so it became
Paralyzingly scary.
yeah,
Yes.
right? Like it
Debilitating is a
became
good word.
it became like just take that first step. And then you take the step and you're like, oh my God, that was not that scary. like filing, the paperwork for the LLC. So you go to the Secretary of State, you file your stuff, you pay the money. And even just coming up with the name Squall Strategies, I was Googling and I was like, does anybody have anything like it? Is there, what's out there? I don't want someone to come after me saying, oh, I already have that name. So I filed I clicked the button send, because you can all do it online now. I was like, oh my gosh, somebody's going to sue me because of that name. I was like, you click the button, a week goes by, nobody calls you, and you're like, what the heck was I so worried about? Like, this is
Yeah.
ridiculous. And
Yeah.
then you kind of, everything, I feel like the more wins you have doing that, the more times you just move that foot forward and you get there and you're like, huh, okay, that wasn't that bad. Like, the
Yeah.
more times I feel like you start the ball rolling and it gets, I don't want to say it gets easier, but it gets more tenable.
Yeah.
But also, like I said, the exhilarating part of it, it's so like
Yeah.
even putting out the shorts, you're like, I just learned how to use the video editing software and I did it and it looks good.
Right. No, I think you're right. I do think that every step does get a little bit easier, because when you look back and you've got 100 steps that you took that you were afraid to take previously, or you weren't sure about, it gives you a lot of confidence moving forward. And, I love what you said about it. It's so good to acknowledge that it is scary as hell. Like it's scary. There's a fear of failure. There's just fear in general. Like, is the marketplace going to want what I have to offer? Are they going to pay? Am I somebody going to pay me for this? Am I going to be able to provide for my family or whatever it is that you need to do financially? No, it is scary. But what's cool is action in the face of fear. Not
Mhm.
being afraid, at least just take the step. It's like standing on that cliff and you're about to jump and you're going to survive, but there's still that kind of trepidation and you just need to jump. Or maybe you have
Yeah.
somebody just push you off a little bit, and you realize, oh, that
Yeah.
wasn't so bad. And then you go back
Well,
up and the next time is not as bad, right?
exactly. And I actually wrote this on a post-it note and put it right in front of me those first few months and still have it. But it was fear is the thief of success. And so,
Oh, I
just
love that.
knowing
Say that
that
again,
like
slower. Say that again.
fear is the thief of success.
That is so
And
good. And
they say comparison is the thief of joy or whatever. No, fear
yeah,
is the thief of success, because you look out there and you see other people doing what you want to do. And I mean,
yeah,
everybody, it's easy to critique, and you're like, they're not doing it that well, or there are some people, but you're like,
right.
I feel like I have something else to offer. And so, kind of allowing yourself to have that confidence, I think, is something that anybody starting out is struggling with, is just, no, like you said, people are willing to pay for this. People are willing to engage, even more than the paying for this. People want to know what you know. And so, how do you figure out, well, how do we have that conversation? How do I help that person learn? It's not even imparting the knowledge, but it's like, how do I help translate what I know so that other people can join me in this journey? And so that's where I've always been. And like I said, not everybody has a legal question. So that's why I wanted to bring in the Maritime Professor to have this e-learning platform so that I can have that conversation with people, even though they don't have a legal problem. Obviously, having the squall strategies, if you do have legal problems, I'd love to chat with you. I'd love to have a conversation about, if you think that your business might be edging up against some FMC regulations, what it means for your business. There's a lot going on in the FMC world right now. There's a rulemaking, there's detention and demurrage billing practices is the subject of that rulemaking. They're looking at data, and what sort of best practices are out there in the data information world, and how they can create more of a data platform for supply chain. But really, like I said, I mean, it was just finding a way to engage with the community that I think we all have it in our blood. I mean, maritime, it seems like, is very similar to surface transport, where once you've kind of, I mean, once you have it in your blood, it's a passionate industry that you just feel very connected to it when you get into it, because it's
Yeah.
really cool.
Hard to get out of the industry, no doubt. And I can't believe this, but we're at 32 minutes. This has gone by so fast. It's unbelievable. So we're gonna stop on that. We'll have to have you back on. I hope you'll come back on the show and visit with us again in the future.
I'd
But we're
love
gonna
to.
stop on that. Faith is the thief of success. Or I'm sorry,
Fear.
fear. Fear. Better get that right.
Faith is the only
Fear.
thing keeping you going. Fear is the thief of
So
success.
true. So fear is the thief of success. We're going to end with that, which is a great thing to end on for the week. Thank you again so much for being on the show. For everybody watching who's still with us, thank you so much. Come back on Monday, 10:30 a.m. Central, for episode 25. We got Matthew Leffler on the show. It's going to be great. And don't forget to go visit the website, betaconsultinggroup.com. Click on that events tab, donate to the charity, help us out, help us reach the goal. And everybody have a fabulous weekend out there. Remember, it's Finish Strong Friday. Whatever you're doing, finish strong today. And we'll see you guys next week. Take care.